Sixx Sense with Nikki Sixx. The Sixx Sense.
Nikki Sixx, Sixx Sense, Jen's here. I've got Prophets of Rage in the studio. Chuck D, Be Real, Timmy C. What's happening, guys?
How's it going?
What's up? Honor being here, man.
Yeah.
You guys just got back from Europe.
Yeah, it was great.
I was following you guys online on Instagram and stuff and just watching it all go down. Those crowds were massive, man.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was 4 weeks. We were out there playing a bunch of festivals and a few of our own shows.
Yeah.
And, we were excited to go, by the reception that we had for our state, the tour we did in the States a year before. We thought, when we get to Europe, this could be really cool. And sure enough, they did not disappoint. It was amazing shows.
So I was like watching you guys over there playing and kind of watch the whole thing unfold. And, I get flack for my position here. A lot of our listeners don't have the same political view as me, but that's just the way it's supposed to be. You know? We're supposed to have our own views. And, what do you find different, like in Europe, where it feels like they're more open to a message right now? Am I wrong on that?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of a couple things, right? I think they're always a little bit more open for messages and content that is speaking to what is going on in the world.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I think that they're always open to that. That audience base, it's for some reason, it's never dated to them. It's not about a trend. It's about what people say. And I think the other thing is that being that a lot of us are not there all the time every year playing, they have a different appreciation level for bands when they come out there. And I think a lot of them hadn't, in terms of the music we're playing, a lot of people hadn't heard Rage Against the Machine music live in a long time. And then just the fact that we were mixing that up with Public Enemy and Cypress Hill songs, it made it intriguing for some. So I think it was a combination that people wanted to hear the Rage stuff that they hadn't heard in a long time. And the fact that the new stuff we were playing did have a message. And I think that, that combination went over well for us, and now we're looking forward to going to Australia or somewhere.
Right?
We're trying to get everywhere.
Yeah, but look at the UK, look at France, look what's going on there. It's a new world order, It's not a new American order. There's some racism, rampant wall building, divide and conquer shit going on right now. And that's what I got out of it.
Yeah, as far as my take on it, all the countries that you visit they're all nationalistic in their own way. So they're also competing against each other as fans too. And they see where you came from. And France is going to be like, well, we're going to be the most ruckus fans ever.
Yeah.
And we're not from the UK. We give less of a damn about them. And when we played to North America last year in the United States, the states are less competitive with each other than they used to be, and regions are less competitive, and countries are very competitive as far as fans.
Yeah.
They want to be the ones that people talk about the most, right? Like which crowd was the best, because we get asked that as artists.
Yeah.
I mean, as well as like what festivals have blown you away and shit like that. So, when people ask us about that run, it's the two France shows, Download and
wheelchair mosh pits.
Yeah,
insane.
And you know what? That was in France? Was that Hellfest?
Yeah, that was in France, yeah.
I played that same festival, I think, 2 years ago, and I saw a guy in a wheelchair in the mosh pit, and I was like, I never saw that. And then I'm following you guys on Instagram, and I go, that's that guy.
That's that same
so that guy's
guy.
crazy all the time.
He gets
a couple
around.
of wheelchairs there, right?
By the way, that guy's living life.
Yeah.
Right? He's not letting nothing hold him back.
I love that, man. I mean, that's inspirational. Like some people, you're always going to get haters like, why the fuck would security let him, be like that. He could fall over something, but like, no, the bigger message is this guy is unafraid to live his life, and he's out there having a great fucking time in spite of being in the wheelchair.
Yeah.
And people are appreciating him having a good time and living his life, and he's inspiring others. So, I think that's one of the main things. I mean, I had never seen that shit before.
Me neither. I was like, I wanted to try it.
Yeah, I'm like, can I get in a wheelchair and get rolled around like that? But it was amazing.
That's the e-ticket for sure.
Speaking of going from country to country, can we talk about going state to state? With the message that you guys have, do you feel a difference in different states?
It was crazy because we didn't really know what to expect with the states because, the guy won. Right. We didn't want to win, but he won. But in spite of that, we had like some great crowds that some of them were there just for the music, and some of them were there because, of what the music says. And it was a great combination of both. And then there was skeptics like, is this really going to work? Let's see what these guys do.
We need those people, though.
It's a fuel. Yeah, I mean, we use it as fuel. So we were like more than happy to oblige them with, the conversion.
Dudes were bigger and wider in the pits in Kansas than they were in Seattle.
Yeah, that was the big difference. Is just the size of the guys in the pit in certain places were humongous. Pits I would not get into. Occasionally I would get in when Rage Against the Machine was playing. I would go to their shows and get in their pits in various bands, but like a couple of those, it
gets rough out there.
More inclined to sit out. Yeah, shit. You guys handle it.
I just saw an interview earlier today with Tom. And you guys were, I forget what it was, you guys were all there, and he was saying, we're not like necessarily anti-Trump or anti-Clinton. We're kind of anti all of it.
Yeah.
And I needed to hear that. And I would imagine a lot of people are assuming it's all about the guy that Trump.
Yeah. I think a lot of people figured we would knock him off the top, but realistically, yeah, he's a part of the problem, but he's not the creator of the problems. He's maybe exacerbating them, but the problems existed before him, and we're speaking to all that, and some people, I think, in the beginning got caught up in that we were going to just Trump bash, but we weren't voting for Hillary. We weren't voting for Bernie. We weren't voting for Trump. We were saying the whole system is fucked up. Even the way that, our choices, we got Republicans and Democrats, and there's no other party that can really compete with the level of money that they spend for their campaigns. That's why they're constantly talking about campaign reform, the finance reform, and it never gets resolved because the two main parties, are the ones who end up being your choices, which is Republican and Democrat. And I would say that for this election campaign, people were scared of both candidates because you had one who had no experience and is just a loose cannon, and the other one who's a lifelong politician who people feel was not true upon who she says she is. And,
right.
So we were left in a catch-22 situation. But
I think that's good for people to hear that about you guys. So it kind of gets that out of the way, so you start to boil down a little bit more to actually the bigger message. I was like thinking Public Enemy, Cypress Hill, Rage Against the Machine, like there's so much music, so much history there. What songs do you guys feel that you wrote that still hold up today, message wise, like where you're at today as men?
Like music, some music transcends time, obviously, and I think a lot of that first Public Enemy album and the second one, transcend time with the messages going there. I mean, some of that stuff is relevant today.
Yeah.
So when I look at it for Cypress, we weren't really as politically motivated group as Public Enemy or Rage Against the Machine, but what we did talk about was the communities and the social content going on, and not necessarily government type of
Sure.
situations and stuff like that. I mean, we pretty much studied what they were doing and were supportive of it, but that wasn't really where we were going. So I would say like songs like How I Could Just Kill a Man and Pigs and songs like that you still feel the effects of some of those things today. Like with Pigs, for instance, it was, we talked about police brutality, and that was coming off the heels of Fuck the Police and whatnot. And, those songs are still relevant today because we still have some of the same problems in different communities, And
have we made any progress, in your opinion? Like any?
In exposing it, yes.
Okay.
Because you have social networks that, you see a cop unjustly beating someone up or, giving them the business to whatever degree. Somebody can capture it on their phone and say, "See,
that just went down." I mean, it was mind blowing.
Yeah,
on FaceTime.
Yeah,
Facebook.
Before we didn't have those tools before, so it looked like we were just a bunch of angry kids talking about the authority because that's what people do, talk against the authority. But we had reasons to, and now with the technology that exists, you can actually see that. Mm-hmm. Now, in spite of seeing that, some people still live with their fucking blinders on and say, no, he must have did something or she must have did something to deserve that. No matter what, you show them that there was no cause for, the cops or whatever to do anything, but yet they still do. And, they get off.
Yeah.
And so I think the biggest change is that people are now opening their eyes because they can see it for themselves. And even though some remain with blinders on, there's others that are woke.
And they got a voice because social media allows these opinions to be heard from a lot of different vantage points. And then to be an artist and not have a voice when so many people do have a voice, that automatically makes you woke as an artist and say, I got to at least say what what I hear most of the people are saying and texting and emailing and saying visually and Instagramming. So that's also a new emergence too.
I think one thing that I saw that really shook me the most is I saw a quote that said, the violence isn't new, it's the cameras that are new.
Right.
And that really...
That's exactly...
Yeah, would we really care about a person who got stabbed in Japan like 10 years ago, 20 years ago?
Right.
We wouldn't even know about it.
We wouldn't know about it.
So the news media has now, they have the world as the pool of news that they get to put out in front of people, and it's like every day something happens around the world, and it's like, oh, somebody got hit by a car here or this. And it's, it's all about fear. I mean, go back to like Michael Moore, Fahrenheit 9/11.
Right.
And, it's all about fear ultimately. And it's working perfectly.
Yeah, there's a bunch of people out there that just trying to make news look like they're not on the job as well. Yeah. So people are quicker at delivering, what's out there in the world than the ones that we've always given that mantelpiece to.
And when we were kids, you turn on the news and Dan Rather was telling you the news.
That's right.
That was it.
Yeah.
And nowadays you turn on the news that what you want.
That's right. And it doesn't
Nobody
have to be a television.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can find it anywhere. And, more people are tuning out of the news and going on the social networks to find the real news.
Sure.
Because people are exposing it,
Those are the good things about Trump when he says the fake news. That's actually kind of badass,
We didn't ask for a fucked up world to be a group that's making some strong songs and strong performances. I mean, right? It's like, to talk about 45 is like that's the lowest hanging fruit.
Yeah. At least he's not a war criminal yet, or he probably is. All the other ones that came before him were definitely should have gone to the gallows.
He's got time. He's got time.
I would think that having that social media side is beneficial as artists, and I kind of see that in the video for Unfuck the World. Can you kind of talk about what the process was like creatively to make that video?
Well, Tim had the idea to call Mike Moore and say, hey, let's have Mike, listen to the song and see if he'll do it. Mm-hmm. And we all thought it was a brilliant idea because, Mike is a guy who understands, what's going on, and he understands where we're coming from as artists too. So it was just about, could he, pretty much translate what the song was with the visuals, and he did an amazing job. And it was basically like, Tim called it. He said we should do an American propaganda video, and really go heavy in that direction. And
do people get the video?
I think some do. I think some do, most definitely, because I think there's people that were hungry for this type of message.
Sure.
Others are, that aren't as open-minded, might, throw some hate at it, or what the fuck is this,
Yeah.
But we realize, man, you can't please anyone, nor are we trying to. We're trying to, put a message across and to wake people up. So, whoever it wakes up, it's great.
It takes time too.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, there'd be bands I'd be listening to, mostly punk rock bands. And I got sucked in by the energy and the anger because I was angry. And then I started associating myself with certain lyrics. And then it grew from there, and it's the same thing I think with you guys. The first time I heard it, I didn't really get that into all of this. I just was like, this is great. Yeah. And then it started. And the process started, and that's why I was saying, do people get it? Because you got more videos coming. I know you guys have to have more stuff coming.
Yeah, we do, and we're excited about it, man. We from the first tour we went on, in the States, we had this chemistry live that we felt like from the first 3 shows, and felt really good. And once we got on that tour, we started gelling even more, and we thought, we should take this momentum into the studio and see what we come up with, see if we could write songs together. Because
have you been in the studio before that? Before you played together live?
We did.
You did one song?
Yeah.
I mean, we did
a couple songs.
Actually, we were doing rehearsals first, and then we thought, you know what, we should do an EP, to go with the album and stuff like that. So we did like a couple things, but
right.
Yeah, but it wasn't necessarily like the process that we took in going in for the album. Before we recorded the album, we went into rehearsals and just to try and come up with music to see if we could write together, because it was obvious that we could play together, but the writing was a different monster, and when we got in there, man, it just, everybody came in with an open mind, and we always say this, ego's at the door.
That's right.
And we all listened to each other's ideas and suggestions, and it all flowed really well. And when we felt comfortable enough to play it for someone, we called Brendan O'Brien over. And, he liked it, and he saw the potential in it, and he said, well, okay, well, when are we going into the studio with this? And it was relatively quickly, we got in, and all the pieces started to come together. We were there supporting each other through all the process, not like these days, one member's in the studio today doing his shit, and then the next, we were all there together.
Well, if you respect each other, you want to be there, and and I like the idea of saying yes to people I respect. So if you have an idea, I'm like, okay, because someone has an idea, there must be something there,
right?
And maybe it will inspire me to do something. You can't do that when you're on vacation and you're phoning it in, and a lot of bands do that.
A lot of bands do that, and that was one thing that was important to us that we didn't do. We made sure that we all cleared a certain part of our schedule, because we're all constantly moving. Chuck is constantly moving with Public Enemy. I was Cypress Hill. Timmy had Whack Rat, and Brad was playing for a few different projects at the time, right? And Tom, he's just constantly fucking busy, so it was like, okay, we need to get this time together and go do this and be a unit. And fortunately, man, it worked. Everybody was able to clear the schedule and be there. And
can you guys kind of break down for me, as a musician, how does a song come together? I know there's different versions, but just give me a synopsis.
Drum beat, bass line, guitar part, whatever.
Yeah,
inspirational idea.
Okay.
And just build from there. And then it's a team. It's a team effort. We're on a team.
There's a beat, and maybe you grab the bass.
Sometimes Timmy would come up with the bass first, and then Brad would follow that, and then Tom would come and be like, "Oh, okay, wait a minute."
And then one of you guys are like, "Hey, wait."
Yeah. And then Chuck or I would come up with maybe the chorus or the concept of what the song would be, and it just all flowed together.
Just like a regular, just like probably the way that you guys have written. Like you're at home, you're coming up with your shit, you bring it in, and you hope that it ignites some sort of excitement, and then you build on it from there. And I think that's different than the way these guys grew up.
Yeah, with hip hop,
like with music, the recording sessions are not the same. You know, so
was that a different experience for you guys?
For me, it was.
It was a slightly different experience, but it also threw me back to the beginnings of my career with the Bomb Squad, where we were all in a room working on different elements coming together as one. And then having the duties bleed across into each other. Like there would be a time that Timmy talks in titles. So he might say something and like, whoa, and I'll reach out for my pad. And B might just hum something, and then all of a sudden Tom might play it, and it becomes that incestuous.
It was very
situation.
organic, you know. Like I coming from the hip hop background, but I did. I was a rock head before I was a hip hop head. So, my appreciation for like rock and metal and all aspects of it was always there. It was just, I always say it, like people ask me now, like, how does it feel going from Cypress Hill to Prophets of Rage? And I tell them, I believe that Cypress Hill prepared me for coming to this platform because, we did hip hop, that was our foundation, but we also did delve into, going into the fusion with rock and hip hop. And it gave me a little bit of experience coming into this. And even so the recording sessions were different, because like Muggs would be in there making the beat by himself. And then he'd call us in when he felt he was ready. And then, we come and either write the song there, or I'll take the song out of the studio and then come back with the idea, and then it just kind of goes like that. But this one, we were all there for the whole process. And sometimes Chuck and I like wrote right there in the rehearsal space and with what the guys were putting together. And then sometimes we'd come back with an idea, after sitting with it for a day. And it was just
let it percolate for a while.
Yeah.
Was DJ Lord there during songwriting?
Yeah.
What, as a bass player, I've never had that experience yet to work with, with someone on a turntable. How does that inspire you and Brad?
Well, what's interesting about it is, obviously
like really
hip hop is
exciting.
Digital for the most part, the sampler and all this, but the DJ is organic, and the DJ has the feel that he's able to scratch and take any part, and DJ Lord can scratch that in, and he can take parts in music or drum parts or noises or whatever and turn that into a beat that, like, on this last tour, I was like geeking out on playing bass with just DJ Lord, and he just became the drummer.
That's what I was thinking.
So
that'd be crazy.
It's another man. You're dealing with another person in the band
it's
that has a feel
it's another
that
instrument.
Is like, embedded into the music, and that's the beautiful thing. It's just like we're a band, and you get better and better, and it's all about taking it to the stage. And I can't believe that we were able to go on these stages as high as we were. We sometimes we'd be at the top, and sometimes we're a couple bands down. Right. Sometimes we'd be at a heavy metal, Hellfest, and other times we'd be at Download, where Kings of Leon and Lord are on the bill, and it doesn't matter. And that was like the beauty of Rage, and it's the beauty of Prophets of Rage too, is that we're able to rock both of those shows and ultimately take these songs that we've made, that we put our heart and soul into, that we recorded, and those are just the play, and we're in the game. Like, to me, it's a sport. Like, I want to destroy every band on the bill. That's the idea. And so you take your play that you made and you take it to the stage and you try to make it better. And Chuck has this whole, like, it was the 5 levels, but now it's the 6 levels of bringing it to the stage. And like, he'll tell you that it's,
first is the song
out on level 3.
Well, most people, level 1 is your song. So, you have your song, but the next accomplishment is level 2, is making a record, record that song and keeping all of its essence and not losing any of its juice. The third is usually what most artists are satisfied with, the performance. We're able to perform this record, which is this song. But the fourth stage is belief. Do you really to your core believe what you're spitting out there and playing out there? Do you believe it? Do you believe it more than your greatest fan out there? Number 5 is, do you bleed it? Bleed it. Does it pour out of yourself, even if you were laying on the stage knocked out? Does it pour out of you? And number 6, be real. Just rap is just
gotta have fun, man. You gotta have fun doing all this stuff. You know, it can't.
I would say that to my band all the time before we go on stage. Like, no disrespect, but I'd be like, have fun. It seemed like the weirdest thing. We're going to go out. I have a flamethrower on my bass. I'm going to have fun. When did a kid that lived in a trailer in Idaho get a flamethrower on his bass? And my guys would always look at me like, what do you mean have fun? Like, this is serious stuff. Well, all the other stuff, the other levels are serious.
Yeah, they're all serious.
And they're not attainable. I mean, like you said, like a lot of bands don't even know they exist.
Hey,
like to bleed your music.
It's like athletes.
To believe it.
It's like when you're a up and coming athlete, right? And you got, let's just say you're a high school coach and you're coaching these young kids, man. One thing that they'll tell you, okay, this is what we got to do. This is the play. This is what we're trying to get to. Most importantly, go out there and have fun, because it is work, but you got to love what you do, right?
Mm-hmm. You got to love it, man.
Passion for what you do. And I think, any artist, most of us, I think, do have that. There are some people that look at it like work, and it's like, it becomes that, fuck, I got to do a show today. Damn.
Yeah.
When, and I don't think those guys count their blessings, because you could be working at McDonald's instead of doing that show. So have fun. Because, all in all, man, if the message is serious, that's great, because, I mean, it's gonna resonate and it's gonna connect. But if you're not having fun playing that music, man,
and your resume is only a license of entry for new audiences.
Yeah.
That's it.
And your history, you guys got to hear this all the time. Like, you're the reason that I do this now. I mean, that to me is like one of the greatest things I can hear for somebody that, like, they fell into your music, they fell into your message. I don't care if they fell into your album cover. That's what turned them on.
That's what happened for me with Run DMC and Public Enemy. They made me want to do music. You know, I heard. I mean, there was a lot of albums we were listening to at the time, but those two groups, Run DMC, who were to us the pioneers, even though there were like other groups before them, like long before them, we didn't really know about it. So that they were like one of our first, introductions to hip hop. And, that they were like a big influence to me. And then when I got put on to Public Enemy, it was like, what the fuck is this? I want to do this.
You guys know each other earlier in your careers?
We toured with Rage. We toured with Public Enemy early on, like in the early 90s.
Public Enemy gave you your first tour, is that right? Or
yeah.
Or one of them,
Yeah, and so we got to play with them, and they were so, like, we listened to them all the time, especially Zach and I. We grew up together when we were kids, and we would drive up from Orange County to go to Hollywood to rehearse with Tom and Brad, and we were bumping Cypress and Public Enemy, and so that to go on that tour, that was incredible. That was a dream come true. And then we, early on, like, you look at our Killing in the Name video and Be Real's in the video,
Yeah.
So
when I had hair.
we were around these guys early enough to be inspired and just, now here we are, like, able to play with them and not just play with them, write music with them.
Yeah. That's cool.
It's an incredible blessing, man.
And it's crazy.
Getting the lyrical blessing from Zach was also good for me, and also B2.
Big time.
And it was like, okay, let's do this. We honor those lyrics and those performances and that history by never letting it down. And Tom, Tim, and Brad won't let us let it down, and we won't let it down either.
We hold each other up, and it's crazy because the way I met these guys, I met Chuck like at a party called what was it, Penthouse Lounge.
I was partying around.
It was like a club, but a party, whatever. It wasn't a standard club. It was this place called the Penthouse Lounge, and a lot of hip hop parties would get thrown there.
I went straight to Penthouse Magazine.
Penthouse Magazine. That's not a bad Penthouse.
Okay, good. I'm sure there was some of that, but anyway.
Yes, there was that too, many times. But I met Chuck there, and he didn't have the hat on. You know, he was like real incognito. But I was such a big fucking Public Enemy fan that I recognized him, and I approached him and said, "What's up?" And he was cool as fuck to me. And I always told myself, you know, if I ever make it, I'm gonna be as cool as Chuck D. You know. And then years later, you know, we're on Smoking Grooves tour together, and I tell him this story while we're at an autograph signing booth, and you know, became very good friends after that. And you know, I'd always been a fan, but you know, and then the way that I met Tim and Tom and Brad and Zach, you know, I know you remember this restaurant, Larry Parker's. Remember in Beverly Hills, it was like a diner.
Yeah.
But it was like a hip hop diner. Everything on the menu was like hip hop driven, right? The LL Cool J hot dog, the Run DMC burger, and all this other shit, right? So I was dating a waitress that worked there, and she told me, "Hey, let's go check this band out tonight." I'm like, who's this band? Rage Against the Machine. I'm like, Rage Against the what? All right. Fuck it, let's go. Because I was always a metalhead to begin with, you know? So we go. I'm in the mosh pit. They see me. One of these guys, I don't know who saw me in there, but they pulled me on stage, and that's how I got into their first video, which was Killing in the Name. I didn't know they were filming a video. I just went to you know, enjoy
have a good time.
The new band, and I'd become a fan right then and there. And I called management the next day and like, "Hey, you guys got to look at these guys."
Yeah.
And they missed the boat on managing them, but I made them put us on tour with them, you know, early on. I think it was after their tour with Public Enemy, sometime after that. And you know, it was an amazing time, and you know, we built a friendship from then to now. And I would have thought that we'd become a band, you know.
And it's still growing.
Cast.
I feel like we're in this like super young version of this band. Like I feel like it's just kind of
1 year olds. We've been around for 1 year.
Yeah, you've been around for 1 year. I mean, there's already all this history and music,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel this respect, and this is really exciting for someone who's a fan of music. But I'm like, man, this is like not just a one-off.
No. They, you know, and a lot of people asked us that. You know, they thought, well, after the presidential campaign is over, are you guys going away? What's happening? Like, oh,
that's all it's about, right?
We only show up when the fucking politics are crazy. No, you know, it was important for us to let people know, hey, we are a band and we take this serious. It's not a side project that doesn't have an expiration date. Mm-hmm. We realize that, you know, in our legacies with our other bands, you know, that people would be concerned that we're not doing those anymore. But rest assured, we are. But this is something that we're all taking, you know, very serious and putting in 110% effort into it, because we love what we're doing and we got mad respect and love for each other. And we feel like what we've done is going to resonate to people, because there hasn't been a message like this in quite a while. And we always get this question. So, well, what do you think people are going to feel about, you know, the rap metal fusion again? I mean, and it hasn't been around for X amount of time. And, you know, Tom would always say, I don't give a fuck about the rap metal fusion genre. It's about the music we're putting out right now. Yeah. And I would say that that's, you know, if anybody had any question, refer to Tom on that one. Because realistically, to me, it's not about the genre. It's about the music and the message that's going in.
Too many people worrying about genres right now, in my opinion.
Yeah.
What kind of difference do you want to see your music making? Like, what would be something that you would go, thank you?
Well, so in this election, right, there was, you know, Hillary and Bernie and Trump. In the end, 45 and Hillary, you know, made the grade to battle out, right? And what happened, I think, is that a lot of people thought there's no way he could win. He's like, you know, this, that. He doesn't have experience, and who's going to really take him serious? And, you know, Hillary's going to win this off the top. And people sat on their hands, really, and didn't do nothing. They didn't go vote. They figured this guy would beat himself. And
I did.
we all
I was
did.
in shock.
I think a lot of us did. And look, that taught us a fucking lesson. Is like we can't take anything for granted. This guy was a reality star, and he used his fame in that way to shift things, and he spoke against politics in the way that a lot of people feel about politicians right now. We don't trust them. They're full of shit.
Sure.
They're bozos. They got us into this trouble that we're in economically, and in the way that we are looked at by the world community. And that resonated with people that were motivated to not let a politician in there. And he said,
I have a friend like that. We just go like fucking head to toe all the time.
Here's the good thing. Trump opened the door.
He started a conversation.
The door.
That's right.
For righteous
conversation.
People. There's more people that pay more attention to politics and news right now than ever before. Ratings are through the roof. There's going to be more politicized people out there. They're going to run, and hopefully one day there'll be righteous leadership. And think about it. Like right now, it's all over the internet. The Rock potentially will run for president. And man, woman, and child, we all dig The Rock. We all love him. Yeah. And think about where we would be. It's interesting. It's a thought. I've been putting some thought into it. Like, where would we be if The Rock were president?
Well, remember that someone said recently that Kanye might run for, and we were like, he could win because he's that popular.
The Rock really
I'm
could
like,
win.
Jesus Christ.
The Rock would beat Kanye.
Yeah, well, listen,
You know what I'm saying?
The Rock would beat Kanye?
He would.
I think right now.
when we get to that level,
never know. He might pull another album out.
It doesn't matter. Rock's got Kanye.
When we get to that level, well, actually, we're
2 years away from seeing that.
We're at a level right now where people are looking at like the movie Idiocracy, like it's turning into this like immediately, and it does open the gate for guys like Trump that have no experience, but they're popular and the world loves them. I don't know how the world loved him, but they're not loving him now.
The self-imposed underdog loved him. The guy who said, "I don't have a voice," and he'll give me a voice.
And that's exactly
my friend who I argue with all the time says, "I haven't had a raise in 15 years." He owns his own business, and he can't get out of debt, and he's like, this guy's going to make a difference for me, and it's not going to happen.
The reality of Clinton and the Clinton monarchy and all the malarkey that went along with that baggage was almost like, and then what happened to Bernie with Clinton, people who were at least conscious was like, no, some of those votes went to Jill Stein, some of those votes went to those other ones, and they were like, I will not vote for Hillary. And a lot of people stacked up with that, and that gave Trump the lane because, unfortunately, it's about mathematics. And when you got 1 versus 1 and something takes away from one, the other one's going to move up by default. So the rest of the world has their antennas up, and we're fortunate to go to 2 of the continents and play music and look in the faces of 17-year-olds wearing Prophets of Rage shirts that might have not have been a fan of either band, but end up
or had this
coming out
conversation.
Yeah, and
so it's a good thing. Like, you're going to do interviews for years to come. You're going to talk about this. You're going to write about it, and you're going to post videos about. And that's important. And that's why I was so excited to have you guys come in here. I was like, okay, someone that believes in what they're doing. They're not going, hey, I got a good top line that rhymes with this and it'll fit into this genre. I don't really care about that. I want people to be doing what they really believe in.
Yeah.
Whether I like it or not. I just happen to like you guys, but whether I like it or not.
That's awesome. And competition is a thing that you do as a musician, like sport, but you also want to feel better for your fellow musician, even more than yourself sometimes.
Yeah.
And it makes the whole environment healthy to go enjoy your music, compete, and put your point of view out there that deserves a fair shot, and that's true democracy. I also like to say, in the making of this record, being experienced, we all have experience in our holster, so it was really a joy seeing Tim, Be Real, and Brad and Tom and Lloyd also say, hey, Chuck, pull out an 87 style. So I'm hearing like an 87, 88 style in different ways on top of the music that has come out.
How cool is that?
Process. Yeah.
It was awesome, man. You know, we're putting out our new album in September. I'm looking forward to making the next one already. You know, that's
me too, because I've had your album for a while, and I'm ready for a new.
Out. We're gonna be pumping them out like that. Good. You think I'm kidding on that? It's
you
not.
You just send them straight to me.
We're gonna be shooting them out. That's what you got to do. That's where we're at now.
And I got to say, you know, because I'm
remember when bands made 2 records a year?
Yeah,
right.
That was awesome.
Come on.
Yeah.
I got to say, you know, when we travel, you know, I play a lot of the music.
KBRL
in our whenever we're traveling to the gig, and I gotta say, you know, you guys are on rotation heavily.
Really?
Yeah. Heavy rotation. KBRL.
I was a big fan of you guys. I'm telling you, I was a rockhead before hip hop.
Thanks, man.
I'm trying to tell you.
Like, what's your top 5? Like, if you had to pick 5 top songs, it wouldn't all be hip hop, right?
I would no way. No.
And you'd be amazed at what comes out of his.
It Looks to Kill is one of my favorite fucking songs. It's fucking awesome, dude.
Thank you.
Livewire is like a punk jam.
Well, I wrote Livewire in a dead garden. I lived with this girl, and we lived in this like old beat down house in the valley, and the floors were like buckling. And there was this dead garden. I guess the people had the house before tried to grow a garden. I sit out there with an acoustic guitar with only 5 strings, and I was pissed. And I wrote that song about being that kid, you know?
Wow.
It's a fucking awesome song, man.
That's like, as long as we just keep doing that, you know? I even think love songs are cool like that.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you feel loved, then write a love song, you know? I don't know, do you guys ever think you'll write a love song?
Yeah, you always love different things. We have legalized.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of love.
It's a different kind of love.
Love is love, bro.
Love is love.
Given the right music because music speaks to you, I guess, as a writer, you know, right? And if the right song comes, I mean, the closest I've wrote. The closest love song I wrote.
I really opened a can of worms on this one.
Love song for a person, B?
No, it wasn't really a love song, but it was called "Fuck Love." It was the bitterness.
That's a start. You know what?
It was the bitterness of love.
We've got Unfuck the World, Fuck Love. It's the beginning.
Yeah, but you know, there was one a little closer on the positive side. I did one for our album, the Cypress Hill album, "Till Death Do Us Part," and it was produced by Muggs and co-produced by Tim Armstrong, and we had taken the music from Guns of Brixton, and you know, Muggs wanted me to write a song over that. So at first he was telling me to write some crazy dark gangster shit over the Guns of Brixton, but it didn't really like mesh to me. I could not hear that like style of crazy gangster shit over that beat. So I wrote a song called "What's Your Name, What's Your Number" about meeting a chick at a club, and that's what it turned into. So that's the closest like love song I wrote. But it wasn't really about love; it was about hooking up. But it wasn't like one of those typical hookup rap songs, you know, where it's vulgar and explicit and raunchy as shit. I kind of did it in the middle. Because I never done songs like that, in our time with Cypress or even my solo stuff. So I didn't want to like come off like that. I just kind of
out of left field. Yeah.
I tried to keep it as tasteful as possible because I couldn't do the Too Short thing. Too Short was very graphic on here.
Very graphic.
I'm banging the table. My bad.
It's all right. That deserved it.
So speaking of Legalize Me and marijuana and your love for it, how far away do you think that we are from complete recreational marijuana use?
Well, California is the recreational. That's coming next year,
right?
But
as far as a country as a whole,
in the country as a whole, I would maybe venture to say in the next 5-6 years, because you have places like Florida that are now looking into medical marijuana, and New York, and once those East Coast states roll in, especially those, it makes it easier because then the South starts rolling in, and. That's usually been the hardliners over there to convince that this is good for economy, and it's good for people. It's not the drug that people have labeled it as over the last 40, 50 years, and I think people are more open about it, and accepting of it, even though they don't smoke. Maybe they're, a relative of theirs is very sick and is using it for their medication and whatnot. And people medicate in different ways. Some are smoking the marijuana, some are doing the oils, and some are consuming without smoking at all. They'll take it as an edible or take a direct shot of THC1 oil, which is the one that cancer patients are using and people that are really sick. They do about a gram of that and a gram of CBDs for about 50 days, and they see significant results in their ailments and in their therapy. And a lot of people now that are doing this type of therapy are coming out and talking about it, how it pretty much saved their lives. They were on the brink of death, and then with some of the other stuff that's not so grave in terms of illness, there's other people that have been plagued with epileptic seizures their whole lives, and they did a story about this little girl who was having like 100 to maybe 1,000 seizures a day. Jesus. And the parents were at an end, like trying to figure out what can help her. Because she had a twin, and the other twin didn't have the epileptic seizures, and her development and growth was normal. And you could see that the seizures were stunting the other twin's growth in everything. And somebody suggested to them, going and researching the CBDs and whatnot, and they went over to Colorado and found a company who was actually growing marijuana that is only CBD, no THC psychoactive effect, and it pretty much took her epileptic seizures down to about maybe 2 a day, as opposed to the ones that she was going through every day. So it's more and more you hear these stories, and more people are getting open to the thought of, maybe this is the way I should, treat my ailment, depending on what it is. Mm-hmm. So I see more parents now that are getting behind it, because some of their kids... And these
families get up and move.
Well, because some of their kids are being affected in a positive way from using this as their medication, as opposed to over-counter drug that just suppresses and not cures.
Right.
There's no money in a cure. That's what people better know off the top. That's why they'll never get the cure to anything. The minute you have a cure to something, that money's gone off the table once, it's a one-time buy.
Right.
The pharmaceutical companies, they're not invested in one-time buys.
What's the stuff that you got me?
The cream, the pain cream, the CBD cream.
Yeah, she got me this because I had hip replacement surgery 2 months ago. And it was like really stiff in there. I was like doing all my, therapy on it and stuff. I was like bone on bone from jumping up and down. And it's like just totally like took it away.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. I mean, it
works.
It's unbelievable.
It works, man. And it's getting better. The technology is moving forward, and people are figuring out how to really utilize all of its assets,
Yeah. Awesome.
Well, and to, have fun still.
And have fun. I find a way to do both.
I was going to say, I think you're
yes, he does.
very well educated.
Let me see. I only have a couple more questions.
I have one real quick.
Feel pretty good being with Fantasy, which is now a company with Concord. I'm a big Fantasy fan. They have a gigantic jazz catalog. They have Stax Records, and to do something traditional with a traditional record label is different in these times, because it's also a combination of doing it traditionally and also doing it in the way that we all do it today. So the social media rise, the video, the biggest ocean on the planet Earth, which is called YouTube. Mm-hmm.
What charities are you guys associated with?
Well, on our first run, we pretty much donated to homeless shelters. I mean, that's one of the main things that we get behind. because that's what you see all day, and that's what the song "Living on the 110" is about. All the growing tent cities that you're seeing all over the city, not just the 110, but
but it's being pushed all up in there now.
Yeah, and you see this, and it's one thing when you see, like a person, an individual, out there, but when you're seeing families, it's that the problem is very bad, because some people are forgotten in society. A lot of the veterans, are forgotten about, and sometimes that's the direction in which some of them go. Some of them are drug addicts and lost everything and couldn't rebound back into society. So some of it is placed upon yourself, depending on your choices. But there's other people that don't have opportunities to get jobs, to feed their families, to buy a home, to even get in an apartment or anything like that. And there's very little support going on for them. And the homeless shelters are pretty much overflowing. And some of them even have, like you can get sick going into some of these places. I remember for a time, hepatitis was going through some of these shelters, and they had to treat that. And so you just look at it and see that these shelters are pretty much overflowing, and now you see these families living on the sides of the freeways and tent cities by parks and stuff like that. It's something that we see, and it affects us, and we want to talk about it to get people awake and to try and help do something about it. Whatever it is, people have to get up and have a little bit more compassion, man, because it could, like the song says in the end, it could be you someday. Anything can happen.
There is, I live by a really nice park here in Los Angeles, and there is one man that sleeps at the end of my street every single day. And it took my mind to a place automatically where I don't want to raise my kid, where this is happening. Yeah. I live in a neighborhood that I didn't think there's a school four doors down from this park. And once I got to be honest, once I read those lyrics and I got to the end, I was like, I got to shift my way of thinking. I'm not that ignorant. This is something I need to walk up to this man and go, hey, can I get you something? Yeah. Like, do you need anything? Yeah. And I think even making a change that way, even if you don't have anything to give money wise to a charity or whatever it may be, walk up and say, can I help you? Acknowledge
what's going on, man, because you can live with the blinders on all day, but it's not going away.
No.
And it's a lack of compassion that people have in the world.
Totally. And shit's hard right now.
It's very hard, and it's not getting any easier.
No.
Even those privileged to have a job and to working, they're 3 checks away. That's 100 days away from being out there on the streets of the world. That's absolutely correct. With no climb up. That's 100 days.
And the other thing is that, I think some of these programs got to do a better job of promoting the fact that they have housing for homeless families and whatnot. Because, when we were doing our Living on the 110 video, we were with a few people who were in a program, and they said, a lot of these programs don't bother reaching out to people and letting them know.
So they may not even know that there's housing available or an opportunity to at least get in line for it.
Right. Some don't want it. Some want to be nomadic.
I know I do a lot of street photography, and I have for years, and I spend a lot of time, especially downtown Los Angeles when I'm here. But, it's all about communicating and talking and paying respect and learning about people and looking people in the eye. And in my case, I'm able to give something back, more than just respect, but a little bit of money. And, you're right. Some people have gotten there because of drug addiction and because of mental illness, and it's probably harder for them to get, especially mental illness, to get out.
And treating it as a surrounding life PTSD. That's what it really is. Yes. The society out there has given a lot of subliminal and overt PTSD that kind of is untreated. So you just can't throw them a solution. It's like, how do you treat that trauma that they experienced? And they're not going to, a lot of people are not going to be willing to take the first step because they just don't know how to figure out how to get help.
There is a lot involved, because you can take somebody off the street and put them into, let's just say, an apartment, and give them an opportunity for a job, and they may not know how to handle that.
Yeah.
Right? They'll probably screw it up, and not because they're bad people, because they don't have the tools yet.
Yeah. And that's a lot of what's going on right now. You know, some of them don't have the tools and some of them don't have the information.
Right.
And when you have that, it's pretty much it's a big part of the problem. I think more communication is needed, like you said, you know, to figure out how to treat these folks that maybe they, you know, they've been out of the system for so long, they don't know how to get back into the system. And I think they need programs like that. It's much like the soldiers coming back from war. You know, they go through a certain process before they come back home, some of them, especially the ones that were doing the crazy shit. You know, they try to have them see counselors and stuff like that, you know, coming back in to make sure that, you know, they're all there, you know. And I think the same thing needs to be done with some of these, some of the homeless out there that maybe don't know how to adjust back, you know, because some don't want to. They may not have anything, but they're free.
The hard one for me, one of the hard ones, is the foster care system.
Yeah.
Because these young kids get dumped out onto the street, and they have to turn to gangs, prostitution, dealing drugs. They're young, you know, they're too young.
And that's the worst shit, because that's you know, that's our future we're dumping off. You know, and more has to be done about that for sure.
But one of the things that we're doing, at least in what we do, is to fight and eliminate fear. And fear in other musicians of making sometimes a song or two that gives a damn. You know, it's not like, oh, you got to make a political conscious song. We didn't wish for the world to be fucked up so we can be a band. No, it's like, once in a while, you know, if you're making songs and if you're making an abundance of songs, can you get past the fear of making a song that might give a damn?
Yeah.
That's a
I mean, I think that's a life action.
Yeah.
Right? Like, get out of the fear, which is ego, usually. You know?
Or
people
pride.
got an ego because they're scared, and just get rid of all that shit, and they just start, you know, doing something.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. I'm just a fan of people moving forward, whatever it is, and saying something.
It takes people to be ignited by something, you know.
Yeah, and have fun.
And have fun.
See, this is like hard stuff for people to actually understand, that you can have a good time and do something. You can rock the fuck out on stage and make people go crazy in a mosh pit and still, like, you know, you're not really mad.
Yeah.
Well, Nikki,
concerned.
Loudly.
I'm loudly concerned.
I like that.
Well, Nikki, like, you know, people, musicians and artists, if you want to consider high levels and mid levels and other levels, at a high level, musicians kind of bring, and vocalists bring, the same level of skill to the table.
Yeah.
There's a level of will that's after that. Can you will your skill to a higher plane?
That's smart and true.
You know, I mean, just like in sports, I mean, everybody I look at in sport, I never hardly use the saying like, or make the statement like, oh, that player sucks. It's like they're coming to that table at a very high talent level skill. But the level after that, the winning and losing or doing something that you haven't seen before, is a level of will.
Yeah.
You know,
last thing I wanted to say is, you know, I feel that you guys are, it's effortless, and that plays into what you're saying, because when you've been doing something a long time and you really believe it and you're pushing yourself up, and I'm going to get better, and I'm going to get better at everything I do, lyrics, style, musicianship. All of a sudden one day somebody like gets this band, Prophets of Rage, out of nowhere, and they're in the Midwest somewhere, and they're like, wow, this just feels effortless. And that's like a lot of years of work, man. That's like badass.
Thank you.
You guys are in it.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
I mean, when we're working together, it feels effortless.
Yeah.
Except for when we get on the stage, that's, we're burning calories like crazy.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
We're running around.
Well, that's a whole other conversation.
But man, it's fun. I feel truly blessed to be a part of it. When I got the call, I got a call from my boys, from one of my boys who was a mutual friend. And he was like, hey, man, I think that these guys are going to call you. They're planning on putting something together. And I was like, yeah, right. Fuck out of here. I've heard this talk before. And like a couple days later, I get a text from Brad asking me if Tom had called me. And then, at that point, I was like, oh, shit, this is actually for real. He wasn't fucking with me. And sure enough, 15, 20 minutes later, Tom called, told me what the deal was, and I had already said yes before he called. He just didn't know it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it was just a matter of, going through the motions. Hey, you in? I'm like, yes, I'm in.
Yeah. And I didn't know actually the dynamics that were going on. All I know is that when that was proposed to reach out, I was like this. I had my fingers crossed, like, say yes, say yes.
I got a little secret for you.
Yeah.
Killing in the Name
is
a love song. I didn't know that.
I need to go back.
Okay.
Yeah, you do.
It's a love song.
Killing in the Name of Love.
Beautiful love song that I enjoy so much.
It was originally going to be called Killing in the Name of Love.
Right.
You guys, it's been great.
Thanks for having us, brother.
Thank you, man. Anytime.
Nikki Sixx and Jen on the Sixx Sense.